Hello YouTube, this is Jay Coder back with another stream, and today we're going to be building a application that gets a picture image from DALLE-3 API and displays it onto the screen here. So if you like this kind of thing, please subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, like this video, and without further ado, let's get started. So, if you ever wondered how to generate an AI generated image using the OpenAI DALL-E 3 latest and greatest art AI art image model, and to be able to harness it in your own application, stay tuned. That's what we're doing here today. So, and you see this image right here. I have like a application or the emulator here that shows the actual picture and the picture URL that we got from the OpenAI servers. And so, all right, and let's go ahead, and what I did was I made a new project that we're going to be going over, a new Jetpack Compose project. And let me change my point of view to show that project just uh, really quick here. And so, all right, so I have a new project here, and if you're following along, you should go ahead and make a new project in Android Studio, a new Compose project. And so we're going to be building in this new project to basically display what I just showed you in the emulator. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure our Gradle is has the proper dependencies. So basically, what we're going to be using is we're going to be using retrofit, and Moshi to do our API calls to the OpenAI server. And so we need both of these, Moshi to to pretty much parse the JSON, and retrofit to make the actual call. So let's go ahead and go to our module, Gradle app, and then we scroll down to dependencies. And then after we scroll down to dependencies, we'll need to add a few dependencies here, like I was talking about, like the network dependencies that we would like to add. And we're also going to be using a view model. So we're going to be using the standard MVVM architecture in this application, model, view model architecture in this application. And so, okay, so I went ahead and added our Moshi and retrofit implementations, and take a good look at those so that you can know that it's correct. And we're also going to be using Coil. Coil is another library, Android library, that helps with displaying the images. So I'm going to go ahead and add the Coil uh, implementation here. And so, okay, so, all right, so I added the coil and the other dependencies, the retrofit and the Moshi dependency. Let's see, I might need, let's see, Okay. I I'm sure that looks like probably what we will need for now at this moment. And all right, now let's go ahead and sync that to our project. And then, so in our code, it's the Kotlin plus Java folder. And then this top folder. These two folders are our test folders. We're not going to use these folders for this video, but the access to main code, you usually go to the top folder here, and so we have our theme and we have our main activity.kt. And so what I like to do for to utilize the MVVM architecture is I like to make different folders appropriate to what I'm building or when I'm building inside the code. So I'm going to go ahead and make a model, network, view model, and views folder so that we can organize our code in that way. So what that means is what you're going to do is right click on the top level folder here and say new, and then choose new Kotlin folder. Or actually, I'm sorry. You're going to go to new, and then you're going to go to package. So once you once you do package, you're gonna type in the folder name. So in this case, I'm going to do model. So and then the next one, go to new, and then go to package, and then we're gonna do network, and then we're going to repeat that process. Go to new, and then go to package, and then we're going to add the view model, and then we're going to go ahead and repeat that process. New package, and then we're going to add one called views, and then basically I want to show you inside our main, we just have the sample code that shows the greeting. We do not need this. We're going to replace this part with our actual composable that will display the URL and the image of our DALLE-3 image. So let us go ahead and add the model part. The model part holds the data, such as we're going to make the data classes necessary for this application. So now we're going to right click on model, and we're going to go to new, and then we're going to go to Kotlin class, and then we're going to choose data class. So this is going to be a data class, and this data class is going to be called data item. And then, so let's go ahead and add what's going to be inside our data item. This is basically going to hold what is part of what's going to be in our response we get from OpenAI. So in here, we're going to go ahead and add a variable called URL, which is going to be the image URL that they're going to return to us. And so I'm creating a data item class that will hold that. And then, all right, and then I'm going to next, I'm going to create a response data. So we're going to right click on model, go to new, and then go to, you might not be able to see the my pop up menu, um, but just know that when you right click, you'll get a pop up menu, and then you would just go to new, and then you would go to the Kotlin class, and then you would choose data class, and then we're going to name our data class response data, and then I have a class called response data class called response data here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a variable. It's going to be a list of data items that we just created. And this in this particular case, it's going to be a single image, but even still, if this is would be the structure if you were to get a list of items, but in this case it's going to be a list of one item, which is pretty much still uh, mimics the structure of what is returned in the data. Even though there's only a single image, they pass it in a list. So now we are going to add the request data class. So basically, this is what we're going to be passing to the API, the OpenAI API servers, to make the request for the image. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the model, and we're going to go to new, and then we're going to make another data class. And in this data class, we're going to call this image generation request. Uh, I spelled it wrong there. Let me go ahead and fix that. This is going to be a T, not a Y, but a T. All right, and then inside this data class, what we're going to do is we're going to add the different variables that we are going to make that needs to be a part of the request. So what the OpenAI API for the DALLE-3, what they will need to be passed in order to request the image is the first one is the model. So, you know, we're declaring it right here, but our model is going to be DALLE-3, and then they want a prompt, and the prompt is what you say the image is going to be, such as in the example I showed you earlier, that the prompt was a fancy futuristic car. And then we need another int, which that's another parameter that is needed for API, which I'm not sure exactly which one that was, but just know that there is an integer required, and I'll show you what to put later. So, and then the size. So, the size, standard size, is 1024 by 1024, but also you can request um, HD images, but also at the same time, those HD images are gonna cost more for towards your API request. But the cool thing is that when you don't have like your own application with a lot of users using it, it only costs like a point 0.0000 something cents per image, which isn't gonna break the bank just by testing things. So, all right, so we got the actual data classes ready. And so after our data classes are created, we're going to be going ahead and adding the things we need to our network. Excuse me. And so inside our network, we're going to add a thing called the retrofit instance. And I'm gonna have the prefix of AIIG on mine so that I can distinguish, between different retro fit instances. But you can, name yours simply retrofit instance or you know, any prefix you want, and then retrofit instance. But so you're gonna so what we're gonna do is we're gonna right click on network. We're going to go to new, and then we're going to go to um, a Kotlin file, and then actually this is going to be an object, and we're going to call this, I'm going to name mine AIIG retro retrofit instance. Okay, and then inside our AIIG retrofit instance, that's kind of strange. I chose I chose the wrong type of file. There. Sorry, I'll have to redo that just really quick. Go to network and then new, and then Kotlin class, and then is going to be an object, and then inside this object, I'm going to call that AIIG retro fit instance. Okay, and then all right, so that looks more like how it's supposed to. And then inside our retrofit instance, this is where we will have our base URL. So the first one will be our base URL. So the base URL for this API is going to be, well, all right, just watch here. So it's going to be private constant val, and then the base URL is going to be this is to the OpenAI API, HTTPS api.openai.com, and that's going to be our base URL. And then for our next variable, we're going to need our API key. So I had to make sure I spell constant right. And then the next one is going to be our API key, which is going to be private constant val API key. And what you guys will do is you're going to get your own API key from the OpenAI website. And it's pretty easy to find it. You can go into the OpenAI API section website and make sure you log into your account, and then I believe you can go. Well, I mean, you'll see within that part you can choose things like usage and playground and settings and things like that. Look around in there for your API key. Um, it should be pretty straightforward. If not, then there are different resources that can help you to find your API key. But go ahead and find your OpenAI API key, and then you're going to put it in here, which I'm going to leave mine blank so that I don't reveal mine, of course. But um, this will have to be filled in order for the code to work. But I'm gonna fill that in off screen. But for now, let's go ahead and implement the rest of the function. And this, so what we need to do is make a OK HTTP client, which will help. This helps us to pass in the headers for the API request. And this is going to equal the OK. Well, it's going to be pretty much the same here, which is going to be the OK client dot builder. Okay. And then after that, we're going to add the thing called the interceptor, and then we're gonna do the chain, and that's going to map to the this is going to map to the val request, and then our request is going to be request equal chain dot request. Okay. And then after that, gonna be new builder. And then it's gonna be add header. And then inside this, we need authorization. And then inside that, we need bearer. And then we pass the API key through the bearer inside the the header for the API call. And remember, use your own API key here. So that's going to be inside the quotations. Oops. Okay, so we have that. And then we need the dot build. And then after that, we will need we'll need chain dot proceed, and then we pass in our request down here. And then the interceptor is actually, this is going to be a curly bracket, and this is going to be the end of that request right there. And so we have our OK HTTP client. And then now for the images, it takes, well, I mean, for OpenAI in general, it takes a bit longer for their server to return a return. And by default, you'll get a timeout because of how long it will take. So we have to increase the timeout time to, I'm gonna increase it to 30 seconds. And usually 30 seconds is enough time for the API, open AI API server to get back to you. So this is what this code is going to be handling. And then thirdly, the right right timeout is going to be the same. That's going to be that build. All right, so we should be finished with that part of the code for the OK HTTP client. And now we need some Moshi code. Of course, this is all in Kotlin, but we're going to be using the Moshi library to make a pretty much, deal with the JSON. So, and the JSON is the language that we pass to the API and receive from the API. Because pretty much the standard is these APIs like to pretty much communicate in JSON format. And so it makes it easier for applications that different applications to communicate with the server, because so you don't have to always communicate with the server in a different language if you're a different type of client. Like, for instance, this is a Android application, and so the Android application will need to communicate with the server in JSON. Let's say there's a application. The application will also have to communicate with the server in JSON. It's just you know it's up to the client or the application to build that JSON and parse that JSON in order to understand that JSON. And each client, they build the JSON and parse the JSON differently. In this case, a Android application, this is pretty much the different code we need in order to send and parse the language that the server speaks. And so, you know, on some platforms, it's harder than others to construct the API call or the request. And others, is pretty easy, just based on the platform. I would say, you know, with Android development, I wish they kind of made it less convoluted, just to make us an API call request compared to, how you can do it in, JavaScript and PHP and stuff. But, um, but I mean, this is the core of every application, is to pretty much be able to make some kind of API call or a request if you want something more complicated than just like a simple game or something like that. But yeah. But right now, I am doing the retrofit, which is more network code that we need in order to make the request work. And this guy is actually going to be the Moshi converter factory dot create, and then we're going to pass in the Moshi, and then finally this one will be dot build. Okay. And then finally, within this file, we're going to make a thing called an object called the API, which this is gonna be my um my prefix AIIG, but you can actually name this like just API itself if you want. Um, but this is going to have our retrofit service, which we still need to implement our retrofit service. So actually, is we haven't we haven't implemented this one yet, but we will very shortly. Okay, and then inside here, it's going to be the retrofit dot create API service class dot Java. Okay, so that will be our implementation for that part of the retrofit instance. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click on network and the network package and then add new. And then I'm going to add another thing called it's going to be an interface. And this interface is going to be called API service. And then in this interface, what we'll need is we're going to make a post request to the server, which the endpoint that we're going to be using is v1 slash images slash generations. And so that's the endpoint that we need to do in order to get us a DALLE-3 image. So, okay, so now we're going to add a suspend function under this um, post request, and it's going to be generate image. And within this request, we're going to be uh, passing in the parameters that we created earlier, which is this is going to be inside the body, which we needed to add those different things to the header. Uh, the request image generation. Yeah, that's correct. Image generation request. And then this is going to get the response. So, so that's what our actual API service is going to be about. And so we are at 40 minutes. So I'm going to actually end this part for now. And we're going to finish this up on a future part two. And if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. And if, um, and stay tuned for the next part. And as always, stay coding.